United States today has more income and wealth inequality than has ever existed in the history of our country. You got three people on top, Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, and Mr. Zuckerberg, who are now worth almost $1 trillion. That is more than half of the bottom of our society, some 170 million people. Three people, more wealth than the bottom, 170 million. We have more concentration of ownership today than we have ever had. We have more concentration of ownership in the media, where a handful of billionaires like Musk, Bezos, Rupert Murdoch increasingly own the media and the information that the American people receive. We have a corrupt campaign finance system in which a small number of billionaires in both political parties make huge contributions into the presidential and congressional campaigns. When you have a small number of multi-billionaires who have enormous economic, media, and political power, would you agree with President Biden, who last night stated, and I quote, "An oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights, and freedoms," end of quote. That's what President Biden said last night. I agree with him. Do you?
You don't need to know much about Trump's Treasury Secretary nominee and hedge funds manager, Scott Bessent, who allegedly has a net worth of $1 billion, to know how he's going to answer this obvious question from Bernie Sanders.
I hope you got my follow-up materials that on the discussions, my previous writings on the tariffs and China. And look, the three billionaires who you listed that all made the money themselves. Mr. Musk came to the country as an immigrant.
I understand that, but what I'm asking you is, when you have a handful of people like Musk, who will soon be part of the Trump administration, and others, when you have three people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society, when these people have enormous influence over the media, when they spend huge amounts of money in both political parties to elect candidates, what Biden said last night is we're moving toward an oligarchy. I'm asking you that question. Do you think, forget how they made their money, do you think that when so few people have so much wealth and so much economic and political power, that that is an oligarchic form of society?
Well, I would note that President Biden gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to two people who I think would qualify for his oligarchs. So
Bessent's attempts at a gotcha response to Bernie's questioning are just as pathetic as they are predictable. The only reason someone like Bessent was nominated for this position in the first place is to protect the financial interest and societal privilege of the ultra-wealthy ruling class, simultaneously justifying their exploitation of workers, natural resources, and the legal system.
This is not a condemnation of any one individual. I'm just asking you, would so few people have so much wealth and power?
But
do you think that that is an oligarchic form of society?
Senator, I think it depends on the ability to move up and down the income.
No, that's not really the answer. I mean, even if you had that mobility, no matter who those individuals might be.
Bernie is spot on here, but just as expected, Bessent completely denied reality and told the American public to not trust what their eyes are seeing and what their ears are hearing. The system itself is more broken than it has been in recent memory, and Bessent, along with everyone else who follows the same ideology, are not the only people to blame, but the people benefiting the most.
Right now in America, we have over 22 million workers who are making less than $15 an hour, and nearly 40 million people in our country earning less than $17 an hour. Shamefully, the federal minimum wage, despite the efforts of myself and other people here, have not been raised since 2009 and remains an unbelievable $7.25 an hour. Will you work with those of us who want to raise the federal minimum wage to a living wage to take millions of Americans out of poverty?
Senator, I believe that the minimum wage is more of a statewide and regional issue.
So you don't think we should change the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour?
No, sir.
Okay.
Besson's answer there is incredibly insulting to the hardworking average American struggling to survive by working jobs that just pay more than the comically low federal minimum wage. You would not be in the position you are, Mr. Besson, without all these people who work day in and day out and scratch and claw their way for these low wages. You wouldn't be in this position. You just have no heart. You have no compassion. It is cruel and it is evil. Because, yeah, you're chilling. You get to do whatever you want. You're living life. While so many others in America have to scrape by and pay, or not pay, but pray that they have enough to provide for their family. It's absurd.
Mr. Besson, millions of working class Americans who are struggling to keep their heads above water are paying outrageously high interest rates on their credit cards. Over half the American people who take out new credit cards are being charged interest rates of over 24%. 24%. During his campaign, President-elect Trump promised that he was going to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. I happen to think that that is a very good idea, and I will soon be introducing legislation to do just that. Will you, as if you are confirmed, be supportive of what President-elect Trump said and what I want to see happen, and that is to cap credit card interest rates at 10%?
Senator, I think we can both agree that many credit card companies have been bad actors throughout history, and I will get back to you once.
Now, very simple question. Trump said he wants to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. I agree with him. Will you be supportive of what Trump and I would like to do?
When President Trump takes office, and if I am confirmed, I will follow what President Trump wants to do.
Do I expect Trump to follow through in working with Bernie Sanders to lower credit card interest rates? Absolutely not. Because that would mean he actually cares about the little man. He cares about the everyday American who is just trying to provide for their family. We know he's full of it. He only cares about the wealthy and himself. But in case you still haven't grasped the depravity of Besson's answers, Bernie will explain why the now current administration poses much more of an existential threat to our lives than it did the first time.
In this America, over 60% of our people live paycheck to paycheck. Millions work for starvation wages. 85 million are uninsured or underinsured. And over 60,000 die each year because they can't afford to go to a doctor on time. Today, the ruling elite have brought about a situation in which we now have more concentration of ownership than we have ever had before. In other words, a small number of giant corporations have enormous control over our economy.
Sadly, this is the logical end of capitalism in the pursuit of profit at all costs. Corporations continue to consolidate until there is either no competition left or they draft an agreement with a competitor or competitors to tamper down competition between the businesses so they can socialize profits among themselves.
A small number of giant conglomerates control what is produced and how much we as consumers pay for their products. Unbelievably, just 3 Wall Street firms, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, control assets of more than $22 trillion. These 3 Wall Street firms are the major shareholders in 95% of S&P 500 companies, exerting enormous control of the largest corporations in the world. 3 Wall Street firms, unbelievable power. And that is not all in terms of what's going on today.
What's even more disheartening than corporations working together to screw us over is just how easily our government has been captured by corporate power.
The wealthiest person in the world, who spent at least $277 million to elect Donald Trump in a Republican Congress, has now claimed complete ownership of that party. And what he is saying is, hey, Republicans, forget your constituents, forget your constitutional responsibilities. If you don't do what I, Elon Musk, want you to do, you're out of office. And I have the money to do just that. My friends, what we are looking at here has nothing to do with democracy. What we are looking at here is oligarchy. This is up and up. Government by the billionaire class for the billionaire class. And by the way, Musk is not only trying to intimidate Republicans, he is trying to inject himself into the Democratic Party as well. He is threatening to target Democrats who are standing up to him and his agenda. Elon Musk was not elected to be president of the United States. In fact, he was not elected to be dog catcher. And by the way, what all of this hoopla is really about, above and beyond everything I'm talking about, is that when Trump and Musk come into power in late January, do you know what their first order of business will be? You think it'll be to fix healthcare? You think it'll be deal with climate change? Deal with homelessness? Well, if you thought that, you're dead wrong. Their first order of business will be to provide massive tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations. So think about it. At a time of unprecedented income and wealth inequality, when Musk himself is worth almost $500 billion, what these guys want to do is give more tax breaks to billionaires and the heads of large corporations.
Bernie's anti-corporate messaging there is so important because look what we saw at Trump's inauguration. The Republican Party is not even trying to hide their corruption anymore because you had some of the richest people on the earth proudly standing there and sitting there to follow along with Donald Trump. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos. And they've probably always been about this life. But it's just now that because Trump has been elected a second time, they're proudly doing it. In reality, they never cared about the little man. They never cared about inclusion, diversity, equity, and building up underrepresented groups. No. This is most likely who they've always been. Okay? So now they're like, yeah, we can do it out in the open. It doesn't have to be behind closed doors. It's disgusting. For Rebel HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.